Не дуже швидко, але йде переклад лише на англійську. Це пряма трансляція. Доброго дня, шановні пані і панове. Розпочинаємо нашу... Так, мікрофон, ви ж забули. Доброго ранку, шановні пані і панове. Ми розпочинаємо.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start a traditional press conference being held by the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center together with the Free Crimea Center and the Foundation of Strategy. Our topic of our conference, Barbarous privatisation Crimea, 3 sanatoriums for the price of 1 flat in Kyiv. We invited for this press conference Igor Lutsenko, MP from Batkivschyna faction, also Zagorodniy, he's the National Archives Group, and Yevhenia Andrijuk, NGO Krym.SOS, expert international and humanitarian law. And my name is Berezovets, I'm moderator of today's briefing. We are going to talk today. And actually, we prepared special infographics prepared by our experts from the Free Crimea Center. I hope you can actually put it in the full screen format. We are talking here, I mean, this infographic, those facilities and those which are going to be put in the list of the of tender, actually, the auction. The Premier Sergei Aksyonov, you know that the most in full swing the privatization of this state and the private companies. This actually happened against the background of the so-called referendum March 16 last year, and then the scope of this operation became absolutely unacceptable and ignominious when the Russian Federation actually exercised their control. But the start of that was took place in March 2014. Specifically, in those days, Vladimir Konstantin and Sergei Aksyonov came up with their statements on 16th of March last year, and then Konstantinov declared that the Supreme Council of Crimea and the government of Crimea prepared a list of those state public assets which remained on this peninsula, including Naftogaz, Massandra production facility, and the brand of Ukrainian Crimea, the children's camp, Artek. In those days, Konstantinov bluntly declared that Russia has to deal with the oil and gas companies. He said, this is not our topic, it's their business. That was said by Aksyonov. And actually over 4,000 companies, enterprises, big and small, and big brands and not so big, which I mentioned, were included in this list, especially those pertaining to the hotel sector and the tourist business one. What they plan to put in this list, the self-declared government of Crimea. On the extra regular meeting by the Supreme Council of Crimea, they actually approved the plan for privatization for this year, and subject to privatization, 11 object of the real estate, 3 big enterprises stationed in Yalta, 4 non-completed construction projects in Simferopol and Eupatoria, and 4 more real estate projects in Simferopol, Yalta, and Rozdolnitsky district. How they declared, according to what they declared, the major objective of this privatization is just to fill the income part of the budget through the funds received through the sale of the property stationed or which remained on the territory of annexed Crimea. They are going to get something to the tune of 40 million hryvnia, which is about 15,000 American dollars, or the whole sum is $56,000. Speaking about that privatization, there are quite a few representatives. Igor Lutsenko is a young MP, and the older MPs, like they were from the Party of Region, the Communist Party, they actually had the luxury to visit the spa retail, which was near Yalta, was built in the end of 19th century with a total area of 6 hectares. He can accommodate at the time 400 persons. Actually, this project belongs to the Ukraine, one of the special services, but it was captured illegally by the so-called the State Council of Crimea. The second spa is IP3 in the Mishor village, which can accommodate almost twice as many people as the previous one, 670. Also, the spa in the same Mishor village, consisting of 5 buildings. Can you imagine coastline as a length of 7 kilometers? This is actually golden land, which can accommodate 1,500 people at the same time. So such projects they plan to include in the list of the projects to be privatized. As our experts prepared all the necessary figures, which actually about 2 flats in the center of Kyiv with a total area 170 square meters. They can the same money buy 3 projects in Crimea. So in fact, the operating one has 23 enterprises, and we send this information to the Ministry of Justice. They prepare a special note to the Russian Federation, and the total damage as a result of illegal privatization by the Russian Federation of the Ukrainian enterprises in the Crimea is over 50 billion hryvnias. So the prosecutor's office in Crimea actually launched about 150 or 15 criminal cases. Now I would like to turn the mic to Igor Lutsenko, because you were in this borderline between Crimea and the rest of Ukraine. You saw the blockade and Crimea. So can you tell us, if you are talking about our citizens find themselves in the occupation, with this civil blockade, did it result in some kind of change in the political background? Maybe you heard some kind of let's say, voice dissatisfaction what is going on in Crimea. Thank you, Taras. First of all, I would like to thank you that we have another opportunity to talk about Crimea. In any word we pronounce or we say about the Crimea brings closer the moment or the day when we are going to return Crimea back to Ukraine. Also, I would like to know here that unfortunately more often this topic is discussed by the public at large, some free radicals, so to say, than the authorities. As regards your question, the information which I get personally, it's not representable from the sociological point of view, because we are talking about the Crimean Tatars and Ukrainian patriots who take part in this action. They have their vision, and everything is understood. The situation which we have witnessed 1 week ago associated with the blockade of the Crimea, this was the demonstration of the capability of Ukraine to defend its own interests. This actually imparts the hope in our struggle for the Crimea. This is the main message. And the results we achieved, I stopped to count how many pages on the Sevastopol forum is occupied by this topic, but this is the record-breaking news, but they are absolutely indifferent to our, as regards our blockade. As for the question or the issue of ownership or privatization of the property which belongs to Ukraine and which is located in the Crimea, in fact, actually it's controlled by the occupants. There are 2 sources of we can use. The first The first source of the Russian subsidies, which they try to share between themselves. The second source, which we already eliminated, export or stopped export from the goods and commodities from Ukraine. It's illegal, actually, export. And at 32 let's say big trucks were coming from Ukraine to the Crimea, to Aksionov, to Stinov, their other bandits. I wouldn't call privatization what we are talking about. Those figures which we have, they show that they attempt to just to give away, and not privatization in the classical sense of this word. We are not talking about that. So I would like to emphasize that indeed, in my opinion, from the legal point of view and the point of view of the actions which we have to take according to our constitution, as according to Minister of Justice and the MFA, it's not very important what they are doing with our property, privatized or not. Today we have a bare fact of life, a clearly established fact, that they confiscated or seized, stole our property, public property by some kind of military guy or whoever else. And the Russian actually confirms this fact and also always recognizes that. I have a question which actually sent this to Mr. Petrenko and to MFA, to Mr. Kalinkin, what they are doing in order to return this property. We have a standardized answers. We are preparing some kind of suits or whatever else. So for half a year, they're already preparing those suits against the Russian Federation. It's not the situation like in Donbass. This is something which has been already proven. And what about the result of those suits and the so-called privatization is a very good reason to let's say to put this question on the top of the list. You know what they are doing there, occupants. The way they are doing this privatization is kind of the funny one, ridiculous and non-systematic way. This is a question I have, and within the let's say my powers authorities at the MP, I try to do something. Igor. Also, I would like to put the question to Taras Zagorodniy. Only 18 months, Ukraine decided to introduce some sanctions against the Russian airlines, excuse me. And Igor actually touched upon a very important issue that nothing is done by the authority, by the state regarding those. Well, they prepare those suits, and I believe this is ridiculous. They are going to sue the Russian Federation for $50 billion for the occupation of Crimea and the part of Donbass area. Those are the minimal calculations. They're just on the surface. They were at least minimum to 200 billion. Only if we're talking about military equipment, we lost about 20 billion.
Sure.
First of all, we should clearly understand why it's going on so slowly. It's going on slowly because we have more businessmen in power than the politicians. That's why they respond so slowly. And what Igor mentioned, that Crimea remains a free economic area, and actually this area used to be like a sort of black hole for realization of Ukrainian goods. Actually, this is smuggling because the prices for Ukrainian food products are higher when they cross the Russian border legally, and that's why it was very profitable to export them via Crimea. The same is true about Donbass, and these are like two black holes. If we keep this in mind, for us it becomes clear why the claims and financial claims to Russia remain at such poor level, 50 billion instead of at least 200 billion. How do you think how much the smugglers earned on that Crimean area? So as the data of fiscal service, the assumptions of the fiscal service are the level of the billions of dollars. That's at the level of 1-2 billion shadow export to Russia, and we may multiply this twice. By the way, we should keep in mind that gray export schemes continue to exist even in pre-Maidan times. I visited Lugansk Oblast and border between Ukraine and Russia back in 2013, before Maidan, and there was no border, and nobody could count how much goods were illegally transported to Russia, and you can only make empirical assumptions with guesses whether they are true or not. And many people were very much happy about that schemes. Why to put forward claims with big figures. That big figures may attract attention to the existing corrupt schemes, smuggling schemes. And as for the that claims, Ukraine should pragmatically liquidate that sectors in terms of the sanctions against Russia. Ukraine should suspend the functioning of those areas which are critically important, like aviation connections, etc. While financial sector is extremely important for Ukraine. Unfortunately, many banks are not just Russian business money, but they directly belong to the Russian government. Unfortunately, VTB provide loans to Ukrainian businesses, and Sberbank Russia also does the same. We used to be very close in economic aspects for many years, for 20 years, and we cannot interrupt these close connections very quickly. About claims. While in Donbass the situation in legal aspect is not so clear, then in Crimea, which is annexed, the situation is very clear. The properties and assets are expropriated, and I believe that there should be at least $100 billion losses, because only Ministry of Defense mentioned huge figures of the assets which they left in Crimea. looking at the low figures in the prices, for privatization, I think that this is in order to ensure that new owners are eager to purchase these assets or this property, then they will transfer it to another owner, and finally some person will own this property who later would be able to say, oh, I did not know that this was expropriated property, when all that property becomes, all that assets appear to be on Ukrainian territory. Again, when we bring back Crimea, then all those agreements will be illegal. Don't you think that the low price is not to ensure that the assets are purchased by right people, but because that assets are not so tractable? First, we understand that the value of objects in Crimea, they are of much lower value now, because the real estate prices went drastically down, and new owners may ask reasonable question: when I will be able to get returns on my investments? And keeping in mind that the numbers of tourists and holiday makers in Crimea dropped considerably, we could not expect that returns will be higher and will be big in next years. On the other hand, in Crimea, they are trying to create more enterprises which are not subject to sanctions, and this is also reflected on the price. Then they do not expect they will get huge benefits, and it's clear that there won't be many willing owners. On the other hand, there is a huge risk that someday they will lose this property. I'm eager to invite Ms. Yevhenia Andrijuk, who is an expert from Krym.SOS NGO, and my question to you as to an expert in international and humanitarian law. All that expropriations and hostile takeovers which happened there, of course it's illegal from the international law point of view, but from the Russian legislation point of view, is it correct thing?
I think I'm going to give the general international legal assessment of what's going on. There are rather simple answers from the point of view of law. In law, it's sometimes simpler than economy and politics. In Crimea, they apply the humanitarian law because of the occupation. Again, the question is if the Donbass, not everything is clear. Everything is clear. Clear picture with Crimea. There are clearly two opposing parties, and the occupation did not meet with the resistance. But anyway, the humanitarian law says that if you're talking about the public property, the occupational authorities can use it just for the sake of use. They can the right to use it, this property. As soon as everything returns to its original, then all the damage or the expenditures which were inflicted during this period of occupation. So the norms are rather transparent, and as soon as the situation restores, everything will be returned, and all those things will be deemed illegitimate or illegal. This is very simple as that. As regards the Russian Federation legislation or the notorious declaration of the Constitutional Court of Russia to the tune that if some European court decisions do not correspond with the correspond to the Russian legislation, they are illegal. You know, the no domestic legislation norms cannot be justified if they violate international law. So we are talking about expropriation or whatever. They cannot become better than international law. There are clear norms that this is forbidden. Whatever they invent, whatever they regulate, it remains illegal. They have certain regulations which they do not stick to, they adhere to sometimes, and I don't know the Russian law because I have never lived there, but those norms which are not adhered to, they're kind of one-time violation, whatever. In addition to nationalization or expropriation of the public property, again, we are talking about the limitation or restriction of the individual rights, starting from the registration of the property, which not everybody could do, and many people actually could not be involved any longer in business. And again, they start this expropriation of the private property, starting from the property which is very well known, which belongs to Kolomoisky, and all the way up to something which has been expropriated for political motives. And again, what we are talking, 4,000 different projects have been expropriated to the tune of $1 million. I don't know whether it's a realistic assessment or not, but it's more realistic than 250 projects taken by Russian Federation. But those violations are committed by different aspects and the rights of the citizens, etc., etc. Thank you. However, one more clarification. Say we say that today we have witnessed the drop in the prices, but the Russian Federation invests a lot of money into the infrastructure of the Crimea, something which are meant for the military purposes. They renovate the roads and they try to build the Kerch bridge. And to which extent the infrastructure, I mean the company in infrastructure, new roads, new airports, they actually built a new terminal, one of the airports, how it can affect the growth of the prices for the real property in the future. What can we expect? Again, the issues pertaining to the prices, I'm not an expert in those. The only thing which I can say from point of view what the Russian Federation is obliged to do, what they are indebted to, and speaking about from the international law, I can talk what they cannot do, not what they when they came there and when they're good to doing what they are doing. Until the sovereignty of Ukraine is restored, they have to keep the public order, number one, and their another legitimate interest is to provide all the necessary for the upkeep of their armies. That's why they are building new infrastructure, new bridge. They have to provide the local population with the food stuff, food products, etc. This is the obligation, the commitment of the Russian Federation today, and they have to do that. So, but again, at least something they are trying to do there, in line of the legislation. Maybe my colleague will answer. Well, answering the question, almost there will be no effect, because from the point of view of economy, any kind of military expenditures, investments in the military airport or the development of military infrastructure, they restore different bases. From the point of view of economies, this is non-productive expenditures, because you cannot do something about that later. For example, if you manufacture a tank, according to the legal norms, this is not the object of economic accounting. You cannot resell it or all the time drive it, whatever. As for construction of airport terminals, etc., this reminds me of the Soviet times economy. They constructed not what was necessary, but what they could. You remember we took care of the, let's say, unplowed lands. We tried to turn the direction of the big rivers. So the economy of Russia is kind of distorted. All those investments is kind of money laundering. Why they should build a new terminal on the Crimean airport? Because there is no enough airflow, so to say. And from the point of view of economy, you know, they do not increase the real cost of the land or infrastructure. Okay, they built a new road, but if there is not enough flow of the tourists, why you need a new road? Or you're going to restore the military base near Balaklava, near Yalta. Those are non-productive expenditures. They do not influence the to increase the attraction for the potential investors, or that the people will have more profits from that. Just to give an example, people living nearby, they can make more money if they just lease out their apartments. So again, this kind of distorted military economics, or which is not going to affect the growth of the prices in the Crimea or the attractiveness of those projects which they are going to use. And again, speaking about the road, we know how they build the roads, like in our country as well. You know, unfortunately, to take care of the overhaul, the capital repair, and they build the concrete roads for the 30 next years. But first, we in Ukraine do what kind of facelifting, just to take care of the cosmetic repair, whatever, and then only we're thinking that we should do something else. The same story in Russia. So in other words, they are not going to affect the prices, the cost. Yeah, investments, they increase according to the legislation, but they do not regulate the market, because the markets are monopolized. The prices for medications, for the food products increase, including the increase in prices for the housing and communal services. So this is my answer to your question. Realistically, it will not affect the cost or the price of that. Now we have time for questions and answers. I have the question to the experts. Yesterday there was a scandal regarding the visit of the so-called Vice Prime Minister Dmitry Polonsky to Poland, if you heard about that, to take part in the OSCE meeting. Now the Ukrainian party, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, expressed their dissatisfaction. So what do you think? How the international community has to respond to that? Because the Polonsky actually spoke from the rostrum there, and he was talking about the violation of the human rights in the Crimea. He said that was not true, and he also declared that he was so good a guy while speaking there, and maybe nobody would even think about his being there, but he had very good PR. So what kind of response should be there? I can start. Last week we also participated in the OSCE session. I can also share with you some of the impressions. We had two additional meetings regarding the Crimea. One at the report of OSCE, and the second was organized by the civil NGO organization Ukraine, and each session was attended by many people from the Russian Federation, both the official delegation and Bomon. And as soon as the speech was over, and a lot of hands of the Russians were raised, and we were talking about the Majlis organization, they started to say how the Majlis violates the rights of the Crimean Tatars in the Crimean Peninsula, and also one of the Russian delegation was very much offended by Poland, and said they had this censorship. They did not issue visas to the government of the Crimea. They wanted to attend to that session, and that said that was intentional done. Censorship, and everybody started to laugh, and they say, "Why are you laughing? Stop this! Why are you doing this?" You know, that was declared and was mentioned. But as for the OSCE report, they were all the representatives of Russia said that that was all a lie, and who paid you for this report, etc., etc. So there were a lot of different questions like that, and they also said why use that such improper terms like occupation or the annexation, and it said that none of the member states of OSCE recognized the Crimea. So the point of view international community, there must be some reaction or response from point of view of the condemnation, starting from the administrative things. How could he actually enter the country with this illegal passport, whatever? How he managed to register for the for his speech in the OSCE? There is a whole procedure. Maybe there was some mistake when they admitted you to the country, but there is registration for the participants of the conference or for the speakers. I don't think that there was some intentional move on the part of our Polish neighbors, but it's very difficult to understand how it happened. The only chance now is to talk about that, to condemn it, and try to explain what's going on. As far as I know, this person, in order to get to Poland, he had to change the passport. I believe the next time they will have a more thorough approach to verification of the documents, and they won't give the chance to those people to enter or penetrate the European Union. Okay, if they want, maybe they can change. More questions? Then I have a question to Igor. There is a question, not about only the food product blockade, but also economic. We know that the economic activities involved in economic activities are some of Ukrainian citizens, oligarchs like Dmitry Firtash, and we know only too well that all the materials which are used for the products, the aluminum and the titanium, and it comes from Ukraine. Maybe the products as well, maybe I'm mistaken, but it goes, the finished products go through territory of Ukraine then. So my question is, do you believe that there must be another civil blockade to prevent such materials coming to Ukraine? Number two, maybe we have to put it through the law. Well, our president said that we are going to cancel the free trade zone, but what about the enterprises which operate and work and can do something for the economy of Ukraine? To say nothing about the defense doctrine or let's say is actually done on the Ukrainian enterprises. For example, brother Mr. Novinsky actually does a lot to that end. There is a number of legislative initiatives in the parliament, and just 42, as if I not remember, draft law. And also there is a special issue, the so-called blockade. I believe that whatever is happening now, it's something like nonsense, because those issue sanction against Crimea, blocking or not blocking, energy blockade or whatever, should be the question, issues pertaining to the government and not even the world public. And maybe Verkhovna Rada had to do something to cancel that law, or introduce, let's say, by the decree of the president, to adopt something on the national defense and council. That maybe the president had to. We have to see what he decreed. Maybe there could be a lot of nuances. I believe that there must be a decision taken to break all the relations, because we have quite a lot intransparent economic ties with the aggressor, and the more we have such ties, the less we have the capability to defend ourselves. And the less of those ties is better. This must be the issue of systemic policy, which has to be by the Council of National Security and Defense of Ukraine, and maybe not in such a public manner. There must be at least enough clear, maybe quite strict strategy, maybe the one which can be 100% non-public one.
But, of course, we should range war with economic measures, because there is a big moral dilemma. Thousands of our people gave their lives to won a victory over aggressor, and the issue of economic losses should not be the price for, could not be the price for the that human lives which are lost in the East. That's why we should not count for today's benefits. We should not count in millions. We should not get rid of the way of thinking that having established the economic blockade, we will lose 1 million, 10 million today. But we should think in terms of the future, and nevertheless, one of the scenarios of the civil blockade could be supplies of the human resources, and I believe some enterprises like Titan may have problems in the future. Yevhenia, from the tabloid point of view, when we all saw that big picture of President Putin and Berlusconi drinking precious cognac, which exists only on the Crimean shore, when there is there were only 5 bottles of huge price. Now, whether this is while Massandra claims huge losses about this cognac. Did Putin and Berlusconi commit crime drinking that cognac? You know, this is a scandalous thing when at the international level, a president of the country which is responsible for Crimea, for annexation of Crimea, and in 2017 amendments to the criminal code will come to force in line with which the heads of the state will become responsible for occupation. Maybe we should amend this document earlier. The document was passed long ago, so Putin has 2 more years for further annexations by the moment when he personally will be brought responsible. For Russia, it is now responsible for the crimes of the war, for military crimes, for annexation. For Berlusconi personally, this means violation of the sanctions regime, and as for the French delegation which visited Russia, as of today, they are breaching the rules of the game, not more. This is the problem of the French Parliament, this is the problem of the Italian government, and they should try to prove that they keep with the rules of the game, and do not prevent their delegates to go to Crimea. For example, they have drunk the cognac, which cost $150,000, and If I come to Italian museum and destroy Michelangelo's picture, saying that I revenge you for that wine. If the president is an official figure, this is the president in force, president in official, ex officio, then this is one thing. He has some immunity. If he is the former president, he immediately becomes like a private person and as responsible as any private person. Thank you very much to all our experts. We heard interesting data, interesting figure, and interesting interpretations about the economic interpretation activities of Ukrainian oligarchs. Yevhenia, thank you for explanations about international law, and we know that in 2 years annexation became criminal. Annexation will become criminal.